Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another PoSoCoMeS seminar. Tonight we have Karin Roginer Hofmeister to discuss her book entitled Remembering Suffering and Resistance, Memory Politics, and the Serbian Orthodox Church, published by CEU Press in 2023. Discussant of the book is Zuzanna Bogumił. So I briefly say several sentences about the book and present the author and discussant. So book assessing issues related to the Orthodox Church from an academic secular point of view is a sensitive matter. However, by tracing and interpreting the engagement of the Serbian Church with the memory of Serbian heroic victimhood in World War II through a kind of methodological agnosticism, this volume has managed to tackle the subtle topic in a very delicate and value-neutral way, arguing that the search for a collective memory is particularly urgent in the face of societal uncertainty, and that religious institutions often use their memory potential to reaffirm their public relevance. The book examines the motivations, forms, strategies, and outcomes of a wide range of mnemonic activities by Serbian Orthodox Church engaged in following the upheavals caused by the collapse of Yugoslav socialism, the violent dissolution of the country, and the fall of the Milošević regime. These activities, taking place in the memory fields framed by the post-socialist, post-conflict, and post-secular horizons, took liturgical and non-liturgical forms, often involving a hybrid fusion of the two. As a result of this mnemonic endeavor, the author argues the Church was successful in reasserting its power and legitimacy in the public sphere of post-2000 Serbia. Author of the book, Karin Roginer Hofmeister, is a postdoctoral researcher and lecturer in Holocaust Studies at the Institute of International Studies at Charles University in Prague, and coordinator of the Moloch Center for Visual History. She holds PhD in area studies from the Faculty of Social Sciences, Charles. She also studied at the School of Slavonic and East European Studies at UCL and the University in Belgrade. Her research focuses on contemporary history in Southeast Europe, especially on religious institutions and their engagement in reconstructing collective memory and identity. And tonight's discussant for the book is Zuzanna Bogumił, who works at the Institute of Ethnology and Cultural Anthropology, University of Warsaw. She specializes in memory studies with a special focus on memory of Soviet repressions and the entanglements between memory and region in Central and Eastern Europe. Her recent published book is More Than Alive, The Dead, Orthodoxy and Remembrance in Post-Soviet Russia. Currently, she's the principal investigator of the project Memory of Soviet Repressions in Post-Multi-Colonial Post-Soviet Spaces, funded by the National Science Center in Poland. So we will proceed with Karin briefly presenting her book. Then we'll invite Zuzanna to provide questions and comments for the book. After Karin answers the questions, we will open the microphone to the audience. Karin, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. I am excited about an opportunity for discussing my book, and thanks PoSoCoMeS team for organizing the seminar. And also thanks to Zuzanna for being my discussant. Actually, this is the first time I present the book, which I can hold finally in my hands. And this is the first time I present my research as the completed one, which is an interesting feeling after living with the topic for so many years. So let me start with a brief overview of the book, and then I will give the word to Zuzanna and to your questions. I prepared a short presentation, so I will now try to share my screen with you. Okay, it works, right?
Yes.
Great. So I will begin with a picture on the book cover. Many people assume that it is a Photoshop, that these objects cannot be so close to each other. Actually, no, it's not a Photoshop. It features the Serbian Orthodox Church devoted to Saint Petka, erected in 2006, right in the middle of the socialist memorial complex Ostra, dedicated to the fallen partisans near Čačak in Serbia. And I believe that this image is worth of 1,000 words and is the perfect visual embodiment of the main arguments I outline in the book and which I will briefly address in this presentation. So in my book, I explore the mnemonic engagement of the Serbian Orthodox Church in World War II related memory production in Serbia after the fall of Slobodan Milošević's regime in 2000 until 2020. I come from a very interdisciplinary background. I was trained in area studies, focusing primarily on contemporary history of Southeast Europe. On my way, I have become intrigued by the field of memory studies, which I combine with my genuine interest in religious issues. And found theoretical basis or theoretical backing in the iconic book Religion as a Chain of Memory by French sociologist of religion, Daniel Hervieux-Legere, who I believe provides the most comprehensive insights into the bond between religion and memory. And I have become a strong advocate for the post-secular approach in memory studies, which I find innovative and necessary to fully grasp memory processes in post-socialist Europe. And this is also where Zuzanna's work that I highly appreciate and mine intersect. Basically, we argue that the binary view of religion and secularism must be transcended to understand their intertwined roles in memory processes. And we can do it both bottom up, studying vernacular forms of religious remembering, and we can also do it top down, focusing on religious institutions as mnemonic actors with their own agencies and agendas. And the second was a starting point for my research and for this book. While scholarly works on memory politics in post-Yugoslav Serbia acknowledge the role of Serbian Orthodoxy in identity and memory making, there hasn't been a research which would explore and theorize the actual activities of the church in this respect. So the church has usually been treated as a stock of symbols, imageries, and rituals, which may be easily employed and even instrumentalized by other memory actors, but the church itself hasn't been analyzed as an agent with specific agendas and agencies. And when starting my research, I could understand why. Because if you aim to analyze the church's activities, you immediately face the first problem, and that's the question, what is the church? And even if we put aside invisible realities of the church recognized by theologians, we deal with an extremely complex actor comprised of entangled structures and hierarchies, both rooted in a millennial tradition and situated in the present conditions. And with this goes the second challenge of how to research such a complex actor and what sources and methods to use. Aiming to explore the Serbian Orthodox Church as a mnemonic agent in the transformative years of post-Milošević Serbia, and to answer my research question of what were the motivations, strategies, modes, and outcomes of the Serbian Orthodox Church's mnemonic engagement, I opted for multi-sited ethnography as described by George Marcus in his pioneering article from 1995. And this interdisciplinary approach to fieldwork provides the most suitable method of data collection for gaining intimate knowledge of processes that are inherently multifaceted, ultimately mobile, and multiply situated in time and space. And the Serbian Orthodox Church and its public agencies represent such a multidimensional object of study, ideal for this approach, as described by Marcus. I relied mainly on a mixture of primary sources and data collection techniques, which I qualified as documents, media representations, interviews, and participant observation. And first, I scanned through official statements of the church's highest bodies and central periodical published by the Serbian Orthodox Church, Pravoslavlje. And in this way, I was able to identify historical topics and motives important to the church. And the memory of Serbian heroic victimhood turned out to be the leitmotif of the Serbian Orthodox Church narratives. Most often, it has been visible in relation to World War II and its immediate aftermath. In relation to the memory of World War II, I could also identify concrete church representatives or church bodies and projects in which they were involved. I visited many memory sites, I attended commemorations, public events, and most importantly, I aimed at conducting interviews with religious actors, which showed to be very challenging in many respects, which is something we can discuss later if you're interested. Besides delving deep into the field research, to be able to put collected data in a broader context and also provide a conceptualization that could be applicable beyond the selected empirical cases and the Serbian Orthodox Church itself, I also had to ask the following questions. So first, I was interested in more general rules of the interplay within the fields of World War II memory making in Serbia. So what are the actors with whom the Serbian Orthodox Church competes, negotiates, or cooperates? And what are their agencies, their strategies of action? Second, I found important to identify even broader constellations in which different mnemonic fields emerge and exist, to identify preconditions which define what is possible to remember or forget, and which crucially affect the actors involved. In other words, these cognitive horizons constitute the Serbian Orthodox Church as a mnemonic agent in the first place, which symbolically closes the circle of my research rationale, which I put there on the presentation. In my book, I call these broader horizons frames of mnemonic fields. From the perspective of my research objectives, I identified 3 sets of frames as decisive. What is important, however, is that I believe that this way of thinking can be easily modified and applied in different empirical cases. In my case, I found post-socialist, post-conflict, and post-secular frames crucial for the Serbian Orthodox Church as a mnemonic agent. Within the post-socialist frames of memory, allowing to denounce communism as a historical error and trauma, the Serbian Orthodox Church, marginalized by Yugoslav communists as an ideological enemy, could act as a legitimate agent in altering the memory of World War II. The Serbian Orthodox Church was able to expose the crimes of other Yugoslav nations against Serbian civilians, and it could positively recast the Serbian royalist guerrilla, the Chetniks. Post-conflict frames shaping the socially memorable after the violent dissolution of Yugoslavia intensified the turn of memory politics towards the victimhood and significantly contributed to the sacralization of death. Post-conflict framing of the memory of collective trauma also encouraged the mnemonic involvement of the churches, which have a capacity to offer an eschatological meaning to otherwise senseless violence. Finally, and most importantly, post-secular frame somehow normalized the public engagement of the church as a sign of pluralism and emancipation of the public sphere. The argument the church itself used many times to justify its actions. By features, I referred to internal configurations of the mnemonic fields at different levels of the memory production organizational scale, ranging from local through national to transnational. And the features, they set the dominant patterns of interactions between multiple types of mnemonic agents occupying different power positions over the research period. And I divided mnemonic agents into broad categories: state, non-state, liberal and ethno-nationalist, and transnational, such as the institutions of the European Union. To sort their agencies, I employed the typology developed by Michael Bernhard and Jan Kubik, thus distinguishing between four kinds of actors: mnemonic variers, mnemonic pluralists, mnemonic abnegators, and mnemonic perspectives. And the ratio of their representation in the public arena significantly affects the nature of interplay inside a particular field at a given moment. And to better reflect the situation in Serbia, I added the fifth category, which I call mnemonic magnates, who are typical for their flexibility in mnemonic performances and ability to pervade various mnemonic fields, thus becoming somewhat omnipresent in the public domain and memory politics. Eventually, I draw patterns of the Serbian Orthodox Church agencies and typical interaction with these diverse agents, while I also distinguished between the liturgical remembrance and other forms of the Serbian Orthodox Church mnemonic engagement. So liturgical commemorative practices such as the Holy Liturgy, memorial service, canonization, they are strictly ritualized and they are embedded in the authority of tradition with a flavor of the eternal. Post-socialist, post-conflict, and post-secular frames of mnemonic fields, they enabled the Serbian Orthodox Church to transcend the church soil in both symbolical and literal sense, and explore also other forms of mnemonic activities liberated from dogmatic limits of a ritual. So the church could expand into the sphere of museology, civic commemorations, education, research, or media presentation. So only when I was able to conceptualize the complex terrains of memory production in Serbia, I could proceed with two case studies through which I demonstrate the broader characteristics of the Serbian Orthodox Church mnemonic motivations, strategies, and performances in post-2000 Serbia. First, the memory of suffering of Serbian civilians during World War II, specifically in the independent state of Croatia, is recognizable as the main mnemonic concern of the Serbian Orthodox Church. In the church's vision, civilian victims symbolize innocence, spiritual superiority, and moral heroism over their perpetrators. And in this way, they fulfill the ideal image of heroic martyrdom typical for Messianic religious traditions. Although remaining ethnocentric, in the post-2000 era, the Serbian Orthodox Church has broadened its mnemonic focus to include Jews and Roma victims as well. And it became involved in the memorialization of Staro Sajmište, the ultimate site of the Holocaust in occupied Serbia, which served as the first empirical case study of my in-depth analysis. Second, post-2000 remembrance of World War II resistance also brings to the fore the motive of heroic victimhood. The Serbian Orthodox Church has given wide attention to the Serbian royalist armed forces, known as the Chetniks or the Ravnagora movement, as heroes who consciously sacrificed themselves defending Orthodox Christian virtues against both the fascists and communists. Since 2000, the Church has actively participated in the revision of World War II resistance, positively recasting the Chetniks and commemorating them as victims of post-war retributive violence carried out by Yugoslav communists. In the second case study, I therefore scrutinized the Serbian Orthodox Church's activities regarding the memorial complex at Ravna Gora devoted to the Chetniks and their commander Dragoljub Mihajlović as a symbol of revisionist memory production in Serbia. The rationale of my research is clearly visible in the way the book is structured and leads you from the most abstract and general theoretical premises through conceptualization of complex terrains of memory making in post-2000 Serbia, ethnographically detailed examples of the Serbian Orthodox Church's mnemonic engagement, and finally to conclusions. So, in my book, I have argued that within the mnemonic fields framed by post-socialist, post-conflict, and post-secular horizons of the social memorable, the Serbian Orthodox Church could advance a wide range of mnemonic activities. For that, the Serbian Orthodox Church was motivated by its long-term goal of re-establishing its position of power and reasserting its legitimacy in the public sphere of post-2000 Serbia. Its public engagement in this respect has taken liturgical and non-liturgical forms, while often merging into a hybridized fusion of the two. To pursue its mnemonic interests, manifested in both a liturgical and non-liturgical manner, the Serbian Orthodox Church has developed various strategies of action and interaction. Moreover, it has flexibly adjusted its strategies according to the prevalent features of the respective mnemonic fields. And I have concluded that the position of a mnemonic magnate present at all local, national, and transnational levels of memory production has not only become the main strategy of the Serbian Orthodox Church's mnemonic engagement, but also its most significant outcome. And as I started the presentation with the picture, I'm going to finish with a similarly eloquent one. Although the Serbian Orthodox Church has developed into a true mnemonic magnate, its autonomy of action has been, especially in the last years, limited by the authoritarian nature of Aleksandar Vučić's regime and his personal interests in memory politics, because he needs to be everywhere, and he found he discovered memory politics and started to be very much involved in it. The price for such a control, however, seems low as long as the political leadership shares the same mnemonic priorities as the Serbian Orthodox Church and pursues their realization, and they can work together and create a mnemonic hegemony. So thank you very much for your attention, and I will give the word to Zuzanna.
Thank you very much, Karin, for your presentation. I think I'm strongly convinced that we all enjoy your presentation, and your presentation of the book was very comprehensive, and it was really very clearly you presented what we can find in your book. So in my comment, what I would like to say is some advantages and maybe some questions to you. But to sum up what you said, I will say that what you show in your book, it is how the Serbian Orthodox Church very skillfully played and used the political situation that appeared in post-Milošević times up to 2020. And you see in your book that so many various actors appears, and there at the beginning there was a possibility to go in various directions. Nevertheless, the church was able to find itself and to enter into good dialogues, maybe not dialogues, relations. It is to much extent, and that's probably also a question, it is thanks to some very charismatic people whom we could say, name the memory agents, such as the Bishop Jovan, who were able to entangle the local national memory with, global memories, the Second World War, human rights, and the Holocaust memory. So it was very, you really beautifully show how this, how Bishop Jovan, but also others are moving between these various frames and use various features in their memory activity. So it is really visible how it is so fluid and how they are able to well, maybe my hands shows more than what I tried to say. So when I was reading some parts of your book, I had, such impression that you are somehow on the margin and you marginalize the controversies which are surely behind the memories of the Soviet, of the Second World War or the Holocaust, so that you do not present memory words behind. But then I understood that what you do is to really show how the church do it, and that the church is really on the surface and doesn't go to the details, but what they want to do is to find these common elements that everybody can mirror in them. So that's why it is not absolutely the critique. I also found very, very, very useful and very huge advantage of your book is the fact that it is rooted in both religion and memory studies, and that you really try to bring something new. And I also very like, and I think it is a huge advantage of this book, that you try to go, from the very broad perspective. You show the discourse, then you show how the church is making this religious memory, and then you go to the, to the cases, ethnographic cases. So we see how on various levels this whole memories works and church operates. In such a way, in my opinion, you really show that what the Serbian Orthodox Church is doing, it is a kind of post-secular agent in this Habermas sense, that he's able to, to cooperate with everybody. And here, maybe a very short experience from my researches with the Russian Orthodox Church is that I think that sometimes I'm not able to, I was not able to show, this complexity that, to separate discourse from the memory politics in the religion life and the cases. And I think that your book really show how it can be done skillfully. I also find very promising your theoretical divagation. So as Karin said, she's like referring to the concept of the chain of memory. Nevertheless, she also stresses the importance of these memory frames and features. And here it is really very useful that you show that the frames of memory are not as Halbwachs described them, that it is not the one frame, that there are various frames, there are various memories, but also there is this post-socialist, post-conflict, and post-secular frames, which all are in game at the same time. That's why I think that the diagram that you showed us in the presentation is too plain. It is much more complex. It is three dimensions that are these frames. I had a little bit problem with the second category that you introduces, I mean, these features. And this is my question, because in the book you say that what you understand through these features, these are the rules of the games, and that you and you refer to some that I quote, in other words, mnemonic features could be understood as rules of the games, shaping and being shaped by particular dynamics of mnemonic agencies embedded within specific structural and cultural context. So my question is why you find that, you know, we need to have this this concept of features, and what more it gives us. Yeah. So if you could a little bit more elaborate it here. What I miss, because your this book is really a very deep and very interesting, in-depth case study of the Orthodox, of the Serbian Orthodox Church. But what I missed is a little bit broader context. Yeah, that you can't put everything. That's for sure. But you know, you are like to particular that at the beginning of the book you explain, and it is really very advantage of the book that you show that the Serbian Orthodox Church is not existing in the vacuum, that there are other Orthodox churches. You showed the historical particularity of this church. At the same time, we know that these churches are connected, they are in dialogue. You refer to this church, Montenegrin Orthodox Church, to show that they probably were not able to construct this Orthodox community. It is very important for the Orthodox Church to be recognized by other Orthodox churches. And I think because we had this case with the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Kiev Patriarchate, when they changed the politics, and in 2018 they came to the patronate of the Constantinople, under the Constantinople. My question would be how this, you know, ecclesiastical memory politics affect, because for sure there is something. You in your book you say about the Russians and this link with the Russian. For me, it was not always clear how much you are talking about the Russian Orthodox Church, how much you mean the Russian state. And I think it is very important because we see, and it was very well presented by the researcher working in the post-secular turn in the political sciences. The article, for instance, Maval Luca and Fabio Petito, the post-secular and international relations and overview, they show how, you know, the politics of the churches are important for all these changes. And that I would like to ask you about this, you know, broader context, how it is important, because the church is also a player in the Orthodox community, this wider global community. So that's why I'm interested in it. And, you know, to conclude, what I think is very important is, as I said, that it is a very deep in case case study. So we have very, very good and very broad understanding of what is of the mnemonic power and memory politics of the Serbian Orthodox Church. And I see that your book, I somehow read in frames of the recent publications, so probably that are appearing now in our Eastern Central Europe. Here I mean Andreas Mate-Todt and Kinga Povedak just also published a book, edited volume, Religion and Secularization in Central and Eastern Europe. Lilia Berezhnaya and Heidi Hein-Kircher, they have already published together a book about one book, and now the new book, Sacralization of History and Eastern Europe, is coming. We already discussed Emil Hilton Sagau recently published book, Nationalization of the Sacred Orthodox Historiography, Memory and Politics in Montenegro. So what we see in all these publications is that, you know, in our region, we really started to look seriously on the role of religion. But what we see in this publication, that, you know, we have very case studies And probably what I would like to conclude is that we really need to have a broader, to go out, because these all publications really show us the problem, but now how to understand it in a broader sense. And here I hope that together with you, Karin, we will make the discussion during the MSA conference, to which we invite all of you already now, because I think that your book really shows perfectly the power, the importance. You were able to show that, but let's understand what does it mean for the, more regional and probably also global memory politics. So that's my comment, and questions will be to remind you about the features, this category of features, and also about if you could say something about this broadened, this entangled with other Orthodox churches and the politics between them, how it is important. So that's my question, and thank you very much for writing this book.
Okay. Thank you, Zuzanna, very much for your comments. Very kind comments, and very interesting comments. Features. Well, I was thinking about this whole frames and features, and how to actually explain these very complex terrains, and how to situate the Serbian Orthodox Church within, like into it. Because I didn't want just to describe the activities of the church. I really wanted to make it a part of something broader. So I was thinking, okay, we have these really broad cognitive horizons, or what is possible and what is not possible. But we also, and they, of course, define the actors who can be involved in the play. But what is also important are these rules of the play, right? So to explain, and I called them features. I mean, we can call them differently, but I decided for this, after hours, days maybe of thinking, and sometimes crying, and my husband can tell you, but I wanted to at least sketch some patterns of how these actors interplay, because I found it important for understanding the Serbian Orthodox Church position and acting. Because if you don't understand how the others play it, or what are the rules, okay, do we cooperate, or are various mnemonic barriers involved? Like most of them are barriers, and then they compete, of course, and they are not nice to each other. They do not discuss. They really want to pursue their view. Or do we have rather pluralists who are really pushing for some dialogue, rather than pushing for one single interpretation of the past? So I had a feeling that it is important, at least to sketch some rules within these interactions. And of course, these interactions change when we go from the transnational fields, right, which we can see in case of the Holocaust, of course, where everyone tries to be very nice and to discuss and to play it nicely. While when we go at the national level, it's different, right? And then, of course, when we look at the local level, again, it's different. I didn't want to grasp the whole reality. It's impossible. I just wanted to present some ideal typical rules which define the play, and by this they also define how the Serbian Orthodox Church acts within these fields. So that was the reason why I came up with this. When it goes to broader context, you are absolutely right. It's not only Orthodox world or Orthodox Commonwealth, but when we talk about Yugoslavia or post-Yugoslav space, of course, the first thing which comes to your mind is the Catholic Church, Muslim community, and how do they interact with the Serbian Orthodox Church, and how these relations affect how the Serbian Orthodox Church actually remember or commemorate some things, or what kind of historical narratives the Serbian Orthodox Church pursues and promotes in the public. And I am definitely aware of this faults of my book, or of this weakness of my book. But it was not in my capacity to do everything, and it would be so huge. I mean, even like when you have to deal with the Serbian Orthodox Church, which is not located only in Serbia, but it's located also in Croatia, it's located in Bosnia, in Montenegro, in Kosovo, in all of them, in all of these countries. They of course have to behave a bit differently, because they have to interact with different actors, right? And something else is possible to remember or impossible to remember. So that was the reason why I deliberately chose only Serbia and Serbian case studies, empirical case studies, because I was aware that I'm not able to do everything. But I would really love to have a huge project dealing with this comparative one. I really believe that there is a huge potential in it. And that's what you said, like, okay, we have wonderful works, but focusing on particularities and on particular countries, or some problems dealing with either religious institutions or religiousness as such. But we need a comparative perspective. Definitely, we should go for that. So did I answer your questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
So now we can open the microphone screen to our audience guests. While we are waiting for the questions, I have, I see a hand already, so go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation and very interesting book. I have followed your work as a graduate student, also read papers, and congratulations for all the topic. Coming from a church background, I also find it very interesting. My question is a bit specific, and sorry if it's out of the scope of your research, but I have recently noticed, in the last 6 years maybe, a stronger reaction from ecumenical patriarchate regarding some kind of commemorative discourse or political discourse from Russian Orthodox Church. And I always wondered if this kind of discourse existed in ecumenical patriarchate in the 90s, when, let's say, the Serbian Orthodox Church began this politics of memory, or even now towards Serbian Orthodox Church, or maybe because Serbian Orthodox Church doesn't have ecumenical aspiration, it was out of scope of Patriarchate of Constantinople. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to answer. I don't think that ecumenical patriarchate commented much on what was going on in the 90s, as far as I know. Of course, I'm not a specialist in this topic. There was a huge Serbian Greek friendship during the whole period of Yugoslav dissolution. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why the ecumenical patriarchate and Greek-speaking part of Orthodox world remained quite silent when it comes to memory politics of the Serbian Orthodox Church. And right now I'm not completely sure, but the relations with the ecumenical patriarchate are quite tense at the moment, because the position of the Serbian Orthodox Church towards the situation in Ukraine and towards the recognition of the Ukraine Orthodox Church is quite difficult, because the Serbian Orthodox Church has its own problems in Montenegro and in Macedonia, even though now it seems to be quite settled. But the Serbian Orthodox Church has been very cautious in this respect, and criticized ecumenical patriarchate for giving Thomas to the Ukrainian church. So now the relations are a bit more tense. Also, Bartolome is considered to be very progressive in many respects, in many ways. So there are also tensions in this respect, I would say.
Thank you very much.
And do we have more questions? While we are waiting, could you say a couple of more words about your field work and what that involved and how long it took? You said some words about the data that you used, but I wonder if you also conducted interviews. Could you just elaborate a bit on that?
I did conduct interviews. I aimed at conducting much more. But the problem is that religious actors are quite cautious, or they are quite suspicious of what they call Western scholars. Even though I don't consider myself Western, but it really is a matter of perspective. But coming from abroad, learning their language, on the one hand, they were, of course, pleased that someone is interested in the church and in Serbian cultural language, etc. But at the same time, they were very cautious. And when I published some of my works, they became quite hostile. And that's a question, like, of if I did not publish these works, or waited a bit, then I could maybe get more interviews. That's true. On the other hand, you know how it goes. We are very pushed for publishing, right? So I had to publish something during when doing my PhD, and so I decided to do so. And then some of Serbian Orthodox Church representatives, they read it, and then they rejected to talk. They didn't want to talk to me anymore. It's also very difficult to get to them in general because they don't usually answer your emails or something like that. They are also very busy. So it's much easier to conduct interviews with politicians from like that. That's my experience, than with representatives of the church. Also, I had to wait, for example, for them to get approval from their superior bishops and so on, because they are not allowed to talk to people like that. So, and sometimes they did not get this permission. Sometimes it was just an excuse, like we are still waiting for the permission. So it was quite difficult. And it took me several years to do the field work, to visit places, and also to talk to scholars, local scholars who deal with similar topics, and who often meet with these religious actors, or actually they interact with them in this field of production, right? Because some of religious representatives, and Zuzanna mentioned Bishop Jovan as a very good example. They transcend their roles of bishops or just priests, and they become also scholars, they become also researchers, etc. And then then they interact with of course other scholars and other memory actors. So I conducted interviews with them to get more information about their experience with dealing with, for example, with Bishop Jovan, and what his work in these various commissions and committees dealing with the memory of the Holocaust in Serbia was. So yeah, and so it was the one like this, conducting interviews, also visiting sites. I was present at several public events. For example, when the law was law related to the memorialization of Staro Sajmište was discussed in Belgrade, so I attended this discussion and things like that. I also visited Bishop Jovan, which was probably the most interesting part of my fieldwork. I came to visit him in Croatia, in his in Pakrac, where his seat, and I spent the whole day with him, going to Banja Luka and everywhere. It was a very, I mean, it was interesting, and it was not a normal interview. It was I had to improvise a lot because he didn't want to give me a normal semi-structured interview or record him or something. He just told me, okay, I go to Banja Luka and you can go with me if you want. And then I have some ceremony in Gradiška, so you can be there as well. So I was there. I just followed him the whole day, and I listened, and it was super interesting, and I got a lot of information and also impression about him. And yeah, I'm quite sad that I cannot do it again because he doesn't want to talk to me. But I mean, I did not write anything bad about him. I just I was a bit critical of what he does, and he I understand why he's criticized from all sides, from the liberals and from the nationalists, and you know, he just doesn't want to be criticized anymore, I would say.
May I jump in? I think that it is really important what you say. I mean, the fact that it is so difficult to take interviews with these people because your student or researcher should be trained how to make interviews, because there are absolutely different rules of taking these interviews. Yeah, and also there is this question about what can be said or what not can be said. So you are very. I can imagine how difficult it was, particularly that from what you said, that was very nice spending this time. Yeah, it was like opening eyes, and then it is not easy to continue this research. I wanted, I saw that there is one more question, so maybe I will quickly ask my question, but please like collect questions here because I don't want to monopolize. I wanted simply, following your Gile question, ask about the cases. Is these cases that you have chosen very particular, or it is like really like wow, it is no more similar places, or how much representative they are? Some similar places can we find in Serbia? That's my question. And
Okay, thank you.
Would you mind if we collected several questions? So there was a
you
hand
can.
in the audience.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Yuzi and I'm a colleague of Karin's. So I had a chance to actually follow her work since we learned to know each other, which is already many, many years ago. And I had a chance to discuss the book with her. And thank you very much for the presentation, Karin. I think this was very well done. And it's not an easy task to summarize 10 years of your research into 10 minutes long PowerPoint. What comes to my mind, and maybe this is just like a provocation rather than a question, but you are very much in a structured way presenting this sort of a top-down vector of understanding the Serbian Orthodox Church as the mnemonic actor with all these very, I would say, relevant and thought-provoking apparatus that you bring up based on your research. I was thinking, which is something which comes more from my angle, how about the church and how does it understand and perform its activity towards, let's say, more of a grassroots commemorialization, small actors, if there are any sort of non-institutional mnemonic agents that you would find in Serbia, or those that operate on a lower hierarchical level or a lower level of the power structure. Is that an avenue that maybe you would like to explore a bit more? Is there something somebody else was researching, and how does it connect in the context of Serbia to your research? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Go ahead, Karin. I think you can.
Okay. Thank you both for your questions. When it comes to these cases, I chose them for several reasons. The first was very pragmatic. They are both located in Serbia, right? So it was the first thing. The second, they very I first identified memory of suffering or memory of heroic victimhood related to, and then I divided them into two sub-chapters, subtopics, right? Memory of suffering of civilian victims, and then memory of this heroic victimhood of resistance fighters. And Staro Sajmište is especially interesting case because it is the site of it is really the ultimate site of the Holocaust in occupied Serbia. And as I said, the Holocaust is the most globalized mnemonic topic. So you really, doing that, you really have to enter these transnational mnemonic fields. You have to interact with transnational mnemonic actors, right? Not only the national ones or the local ones. And I wanted to explore the Serbian Orthodox Church doing this. Not only because the Serbian Orthodox Church is very often perceived only as a very nationalist organization, which is not able to step beyond that or, you know, go outside of this box. But I wanted to demonstrate that it is actually able to do it in a very specific context, of course. The second, Staro Sajmište, was a very nice example of how the Serbian Orthodox Church can be involved in memory politics beyond this liturgical form. Bishop Jovan was really member of all of these committees. He is still a member or somehow associated with the Museum of Genocide Victims. So it was very important for me, this case study, to show this form of the Serbian Orthodox Church mnemonic engagement. And Staro Sajmište was very hot topic, or to some extent still is, in Serbia when it comes to the discussion about the Holocaust memory, but also the memory of Serbian victims during World War II, and it somehow very nicely intersects in this particular site. So that was this. With Ravna Gora, it was it's very iconic site for remembering the Chetniks and the reason why, and that's the main reason why I included this, or why I chose it as my case study. It's the church representative, Lubomir Ranković. He was one of those who actually established this site, or and they were very much active in erecting the church together with the statue and so on. So it was also important, and even though I argue in my book that in case of memory of resistance, the Serbian Orthodox Church did not create any institutional platform, as in case of memory of suffering, it is still extremely present at all levels of memory making, and actually reframing reframing understanding of World War II resistance in Yugoslavia. So that's why I chose these sites. Of course, you have more sites related to memory of the Chetniks. Many of them are in Bosnia right now. But as I said, I chose this as really the iconic site, and as a site which is in Serbia and not in another country. So that was it. Yeah, top-down grassroots. With the church, it's also very difficult. As I said, it's a very complex actor, right? And that's the point, that it is the actor which really which is really active at all of these levels, like from the local one to the top level. And also because it is still an organization or institution which has a very functioning network. It is very difficult really to say, okay, this is only the local level, because these mnemonic topics can travel, right, very easily from the local level to the top level and the other way around. So it is very it's very interesting to or like it is very difficult actually to sort the church as a, local actor or only like national actor or transnational actor. The church can pervade all of these spheres, right? And yes, you're right. I focused mostly on this official level because it was much easier to get some information and to get some broader understanding of what's interesting for the church, and then to identify different actors. But I spoke also with some priests at the local level, right? I wanted to conduct an interview with a priest who now runs the church and within the complex at Ravna Gora. He didn't give me interview at the end of the day, but we communicated together for months, like trying to arrange the interview. So you're right that I started with the top, like with the official level, but then I wouldn't say that I did not deal with the grassroots at all. But I was interested in the church as an organization. I wasn't interested in religious communities or in believers and how they use these rituals. And yes, you are right. That's another topic which is of course also very interesting and and I think that Zuzanna is much more much more informed, and she does these issues as well. But I really, in this work, I focused only on the institution, not only on the top level, but also the local one when I found it important. Plus, as I said, it is very difficult to really strictly divide them, because they are connected, they are interconnected, and you can have an initiative for canonization coming from a very grassroots local level, but then it has to be approved by the very top level of the church, which is the case. I conducted interview with a priest in Rakovica, and he wrote a lot of, many priests are amateur historians and local historians, right? And he wrote a lot of books about this figure, Nedeljko Strelicic. And he even has a statue of him in his office, and he started this initiative for canonization, and I believe that it was last year that finally this guy was canonized. So this I don't know if I answered all of your questions.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We still have a couple of minutes, so if anyone from the audience would like to join our discussion, you're all very welcome. In the meantime, I have another question. I really was interested in your theoretical contribution of that concept of mnemonic magnets. Could you elaborate a bit on that, and could you maybe give examples how that worked and how that is different from the other four concepts provided by Bernhard and Kubik?
Yeah. Well, I used their typology, and then I was like, okay, but this is, I mean, the Serbian Orthodox Church does not behave only as a warrior, right? Because that's what you would expect. But what I also put into the book, or I came up with this term when really trying to find a way from this complex mess. And that was the spiral of impossibilities. And that's what I find very important in case of Serbia, because it really defines how many memory actors in Serbia act or cannot act. And those are those very conflicting demands from transnational actors, from national public, from local actors, and it is very difficult to be just a warrior if you are just caught in this spiral of impossibilities. Like, you cannot really satisfy everyone, right? And in case of Serbia, it's really a huge it's a really, like, this clash of interest and demands is huge. And so I was thinking, like, what can you do to really, as a mnemonic actor, to deal with that and to somehow overcome this? And I was thinking about various terms like mnemonic entrepreneur and so on. But then I was like, okay, this is so used. So, and I want to come up with my own definition, which I think is important in this case, or to describe these actions. So I don't want this concept which is already, established, like entrepreneur. I have to come up with something like which is, without any definition so far. So I came up with this word. And that's exactly about a possibility or ability and capacity to overcome these conflicting demands. And actually, the main outcome of this strategy of action is not to pursue some single narrative or really, like, rule the whole arena, but to be present, to be visible, and that's exactly what the Serbian Orthodox Church does. Like, you cannot really commemorate, you cannot remember without the Orthodox Church anymore in Serbia. The Serbian Orthodox Church has to be involved in some capacity. And that's what I believe makes it mnemonic magnate.
Sounds very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience? You can, yeah, I see another hand. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. It's very good to hear my wife's presentation after so many years. And I would have a more, so I'm the husband. Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Oscar. I would be interested in how much the autonomy of the priesthood as an institutional agent varies throughout your research period. And more exactly, I would I would be interested in, because I know that it has been damped down. The regime does practically everything to narrow down the possibility of autonomous agency on the one hand. And on the other hand, we can also see that, for example, the German Bishop Grigorie is quite outspoken when it comes to lithium mining, for example, and how he stands next to his flock. And I would be interested in how could this look in the future when it comes to memorialization processes within Serbia? So how much are they autonomous in speaking? And we know the involvement of Aleksandar Vučić is quite direct and malign or even benign in some cases. But what is the future perspective of this and how this can develop with a specific focus on the mnemonic agency of the church and its autonomy, or vis-a-vis its autonomy? Thank you.
Well, I think it will be only worse. So I see that that there is a control from the top management of the church. I mean, now theologians would kill me, but the top representatives, I would say, and there is also some kind of self-censorship within the church. So even Bishop Jovan was criticized recently, and he was advised not to talk about the victims of Jasenovac anymore, even though he was like during the whole my research period, he was super important, not only for the church, but also for the regime, because he was the one who could be shown also abroad, right? As a very educated, very, very capable person who is from the church. And who is, by the way, super interesting in many other respects. He is a musician. He is very very interesting person. And recently he was told that he shouldn't talk about the numbers of the Jasenovac victims, or criticize those, to be more precise, criticize those who talk about the number of victims in Jasenovac, because that's his approach. Like, we should not talk about the exact numbers until we have research done. And of course, Serbian nationalists were quite upset with these statements because they want to talk about numbers. And I don't know exactly what happened. If I assume that Patriarch was told by Serbian regime to calm, to somehow advise Bishop Jovan not to be so loud. And that's what happened. When it comes to those who work in diaspora, as Bishop Grigoria, they are usually more progressive. And yes, Bishop Grigoria is known for being loud, and that's the reason why he couldn't stay in Herzegovina. That was very obvious why he was sent to Germany. I don't know. I don't know. It is very difficult to sometimes to understand what is going on within the church. It's true that in the Orthodox Church, bishops are quite autonomous, or they are not so controlled by the Patriarch. But in the last years, I think that we saw that that if they are too loud, or if they go against what Aleksandar Vučić wants, then they are advised not to do so.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Last chance to find out all the peculiarities of the book and all the interesting things. If not, I will probably thank you all for attending the seminar. Thank you, Karin, for amazing book. Thank you, Zuzanna, for joining us for discussion. I'm looking forward to seeing you in our following seminars.